So I sanded this down a good bit and cleaned it up. You can see the grain of the sanding going this way on the flat part and this way on the bevel. And the bevel came out pretty good. I had to be careful with the heat. I probably should have a little dunk tank of water. I can see where it got hot, but no big deal. It's not heat treated yet, so I still have to do the heat treatment on it. A few things I wanted to point out, though, that I noticed when I brought it inside once it cooled down and I really got a good look at it, is when I lay the knife down and I look at the actual bevel like this. While I was doing the sanding, I continued to look at this bevel and to see how symmetrical it was. Let me see if I can pick this up on camera here. There we go. Okay, right here. And it's pretty good. But when I turn it around and I look at this bevel here, it paints a completely different story. Right? You can see that it's very lopsided as to, I ground here quite a lot, but this is actually still quite flat. So I need to fix the curve of this bevel here. I'm going to stick it on the anvil because it's a really good flat surface for me to judge it on, to see if this point is wavy. Actually, I can feel it now that I'm doing this. I can feel that it comes, it's straight, and then it picks up right here. So actually right here just needs to be grounded down. So I think I can stick that piece of wood and stick it on there and grind sand this piece off just a little bit more here. And if I look at the shape, yeah, I can actually see that there's more material here that needs to come off. Then here it's a very defined line, and I can feel that defined line. While here I can't feel it as well. So I just need to continue my sanding here so that, see that? Oh, that's a good shot right there. So I'm just going to fix that bevel. I'm blown away at how well the first knife project is going. I'll change the belt. Actually, maybe not. I might keep this belt. No, I got to remove a lot of material. I'll put the, I think I had an 80 grit on it. This is 120, I think, because I want to remove that material and then I'll shine it up. So I wish I had a sander that had a variable speed to it, because I promise you, as I get this on there, it's hauling ass. And just to do a little fine little touch is quite difficult on this sander. But I'm struggling with it and working through the complications and difficulties, learning some good lessons like this off of it. So I'm going to get to sanding this. I think that's it. I think that's the trick. It's still a little bit, but I'm not going to overcomplicate that and worry it too much. I'm going to heat treat this next. I think I'm done sanding. I wasn't able to clean up the scale on here, but I'm going to heat treat it anyway, so no big deal. I have to decide if I want to drill the holes first. I think I'm going to drill the holes for the scales first, and then I might do a little bit of a weight reduction on the handle side, just because this is really thick. It's got a good weight to it, but it's not absurdly heavy. When it was just the raw stock, I thought it was going to be a very heavy knife, but now that I just hold it like this, it's actually not that bad, with all the material that's been removed from here, and of course the handle itself. Yeah, I will drill holes in the handle. I'm going to do 3 holes for the mounting pins, and I got to decide if I'm going to do a weight reduction hole or just, like, randomly throughout it for the glue to settle adhesive. I think I'll be able to just clean this up by hand once finished. I'll just have a sanding block and I'll stick it in the vise. I'll stick it in the vise and be able to clean that up itself. This line here is pretty smooth, and this line here is pretty smooth. There's still a little areas right here, I'm not going to worry about it. First knife, I think I can further refine those later on as I get the hang of everything. This is great. I love this. This is nice. Okay. These are the scales that I'm going to be using for this knife. Oh. The grain pattern, they're not a match, but the grain pattern is not too different between the two. So I think I'm going to put them on this way so that this bevel right here shows within the handle itself. Cut it to size, and then I'll cut this off. Yeah, I think those will do good. It's not too thick. I was surprised when I got these scales. They're thin, but now that I hold it with the blade, honestly, it's not thin at all. Doubled up with the thickness of the metal. So these scales are already flat. So what I'm going to do is drill these holes. I'll put them on the drill press, and I'll drill this all at once. After I drill it, I'll shape the tip. Maybe I think first I should drill and then cut these off, and then cut the rough outline off prior to sanding. Okay, keeping in mind, I haven't heat treated this yet. So if that's the case, I haven't quenched it, I should say. If that's the case, I don't know if the metal will take on different property measurements, if it's going to shrink or expand, or what's going to happen if I do these pre-drilled holes, but I'm going to figure that out. That'll be a nice learning experience. So, oh no, don't dirty. That's up next. Drilling the holes, followed then by cutting to size and starting the front shape so that it fits the pre-quenched knife. So what I've done here is marked 3 different holes here that I'll be drilling. The first one I marked here, and I measured the width and then found the center, marked it here. The scale is going to come up here this way. I'll later figure out the exact angle that I want this front piece. Came to the back, did not measure it from here to here. I measured it from here to here so that it's at the butt end of the knife, and then marked the half section. And then I did not measure here. Instead, what I did is lined up these 2 lines. This ended up being 10 centimeters across, and marked it linear between the lines at the 5 centimeter mark. So I'll go ahead and stick this on the drill press and drill through here. And I'll show you that in the next piece. Okay, got one. And from my experience when I have 1, there's rotation. So I need to put these 2. Run out of room to clamp. Okay. Okay, so the first one, let's bring this around real quick. You can see the first one here. There's my dot. There's my drill press, and I'm going to drill through the metal handle, followed by 2 scales that are flushed with each other. Last time I did this by hand with a hand drill, and I drilled this at a funny angle with my little practice knife that I had made. Let me grab it and show you what happened with that. So I had some 1/4-inch brass tubing that I used to make this handle. This was just some practice with some leftover pallet wood. And you can see that when I drilled it, especially on this side here, once I stuck these through, it didn't line up very well. And so it created this unsightly gap that filled in later on with just grease and whatnot. And the same on this side. The center stayed fairly well, but the other 2, it drilled at an angle. So when I drove the pins in, it warped the wood to get it in. So This came out really well. This was my test piece. This was my test blade. This is just a piece of stainless steel that was sitting around. There's nothing fancy about it, not heat treated or anything. This is just a concept model of a knife that I had made. All right, so back to this. Now that I've got the drill press here, I'm going to drill straight down for the first hole, and then I will stick a rod into those holes to hold them together, and then we'll move the assembly up to drill the other 2 holes. So let's drill this hole first. Thinking about it, I see that it actually gets a little warm. I think I might go through the handle and then turn it off and let it cool back down, because I don't want to drill through the wood with a hot blade. Let's do it. Commitment. Okay, that's through everything. I'll get it cleaned up and then we'll move on to the next hole. So this is the 5mm brass rod that I'm going to be using. And you can see that it fits very well. It's not too snug, so it freely fits. So that actually, I was afraid that it was going to be too snug. I don't want to reorient these too much. Wood is a little tight. That's okay. We can fix the wood. All right, so I'm going to cut 3 pieces of this rod down, just to a length that's enough. Let's see here. And I only need, roughly I need 1.5 inches. First pin is through. Whoop. So I have it flush on the bottom, the 2 scales, the knife blade itself, and the second pin. So I just, at this point, need to keep it, these 2 scales flush with each other, and then this more or less just centered. And we'll get this lined up. Once we get that lined up, I'll go ahead and secure it on this end. And then we'll do the exact same. Oh, that was really lucky. I got it right on the dot first try. Okay, we'll just clamp this down. That. One more. Okay, make sure we're still good. Absolutely perfect. Drill in the second hole. Right there. Nice. Very nice. Coming through, you can see there's a little bit of leftover material here. And we'll go ahead and throw that pin through it, see how it fits. I had to use a little peen hammer, a little ball peen, and kind of help tap that through the wood on the last one. I got to do the same over here. 2 pins. There's one more center hole to drill here. We'll get this lined up. There, I think. There we go. And then, if I can, yeah, I can. Good. Go on both sides to keep it from spinning. Last thing I want to do is have this twist on me. Cutting it. A little bit of surface oil on the metal. Now the true test is when I take this apart does this scale then go onto this side as well? So I have to do this without messing everything up and without hurting myself. I don't know how to do it. Perfect. Nice blunt end. So now I can come and I might just be able to pull this out. I don't need a lot. I just need to get out of that first slab of wood here. Okay. Just about. Ouch. She's actually a little bit sharp. If I get some teeth marks in this brass as I pull it, I think that the effect is only just simply going to be, all right, there we go, that it creates a groove for the epoxy to sit in. Pick this off this way, I think. Okay. If I have any debris that's on the handle side inside, it's gonna warp everything. And since I'm going to start crafting this handle, I don't want any warps from the very beginning. So I want to make sure that this is a really clean edge. That means I need to give it a little bit of a bevel, then that's what I need to do. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. If there's a better way to do this, leave it in the comments. Let me know. Give me some teachings. I'm all open. I've had some really good responses to my videos already. People were just as surprised as I was in the sanding video when I was making the shape. When I was sanding out the shape of the blade. Someone had commented. We're like, damn, dude, that's your first knife. It's pretty good. Because I'm paraphrasing. I was pretty surprised. There we go. But really, my first knife was that practice one. You know, I didn't step into it unknowing. All right, let's get this on here. Now, can I sandwich it? Ooh. Something's working here. Look at that. This is fucking working. What? Look at that. That's pretty good. All right. I don't know if I need that. If I do put it in, I have to take it back out. But I do want to make sure that it fits, and I don't want to lose it. So I'm actually going to put it in. Does it go through everything? Does it go through everything? Made a comment on the last one. I didn't get my holes drilled straight. Oh my God, it did it. Look at that. Went all the way through. Perfect. It didn't splinter out. Oh, I'm happy. I am happy. Okay, so I've got them all the way through. I actually don't want these protruding, so I'm going to back them off a little bit in order to do that. I'm going to hang this over the edge. Can you see this in the video? Good. And I'm just going to give it a little bit. Just like that. Boom. Look at that. Okay. So next up, I'm going to, you can see there's a big gap of overhang. I'm just going to cut this off. I'll use these scales for another project at some point in time. And then I'll come in here and I'll draw the angle that I want on here. Oh man, this is so cool. I gotta admit, this is actually pretty hard wood. Usually wood that I'm dealing with back here is much softer. Because I'm not making handle scales. I'm just creating figures here. that out. Came out good. It's time to take it off. So now what I'm going to do is unsandwich the knife. So I'll pull these rivets out past the metal, and then I'll stick this scale back on. I've got a good reference point here as to now I don't have to worry about getting them upside down and all that crazy hoo-ha. So I've taken the knife out of the handle scales and placed the handle scales together. And I've then drifted this pin just a little bit past it so that it sits within the hole of the knife itself, on just like that. And then I've traced the knife itself where I'd like the scale to go up to and stop. So I'm going to have rough shape like this and then outlined it on to the scale itself. The other side looks just like that. So I'm going to cut the scale along these two lines so that I have my forward projection. I don't have to worry about any of this extra for the time being, because this will all come to shape once the knife is hardened and we have the scales fixed to the knife itself with the epoxy. We'll only shape the scales once we have the epoxy finished. For now, I need to finish this tip, because once we epoxy it, there's no getting into these grooves and sanding this to a nice finish. So we're going to finish the front first. Right. Drift this pin back out, and I'm going to take it over to the bandsaw and take these off. Smells good though. Okay. And we have it. Go ahead and put that on a belt sander and start to smooth out these two face surfaces. We've got a belt that's 120 grit. It might be a little too fine, I'm not too sure, but I think that the 80 and the 60 I have is going to be too aggressive. So I want to just kind of get this nice and smooth. Come up here, find a sweet angle that I'm going to have this at. I want to keep this fairly flat. What I don't want to do is take this edge and catch this edge, right? I've done that a few times with the knife itself while I was like doing some sanding like this, right? I would come down here and it would catch that edge, or I would catch that edge, push it, or mostly it would catch this edge, push like that, right? Of course, I didn't have the tip on it, so it wasn't as freaking dangerous, but started learning some lessons with that. All right, anyways, nice and smooth and flat. I just want to have this on there, and then I will flip it over and we'll figure that one too. Okay, yeah, let's do it. There we go. This is good. Try. I've seen that burn. Put it right now. And I just sit right here and do that. Like that. I want to hit it at an angle, so these pins will get in the way. I think what I'll do is I'll angle one side, I'll drift this pin through, and then be able to angle the other side. Got a hammer and a little bench here. Now see that I have bevel, and then these two sides, this is really smooth. This feels really good. This is not rounded. I will round this by hand sanding at a later point in time. But I now know that that angle that I had with that reference point when I stop right here is going to be a good piece. And if I want to increase the angle later, I can lower that down and hold it. I can just grip this pin back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and sand this down up until that line becomes to the same amount away from the pin right there. Come around here so that you can see. I'm going to sand these off because I don't want this burn mark showing in the final product. So I think what I'm going to do, it's actually really nice. I don't know if I want to round these edges. I do ever so slightly, so I'm going to hand sand maybe. But I think this is where the point of stopping for today is, and I'm going to think about what I'm doing for the rest of the night and come up with a plan of action so that tomorrow I can hit it, have something successful. Let's put it on the knife and see how it looks. All right. So got that side, and the other side will line up right here. Okay. So there's my scales. Of course, the knife's going to be in the center. And I do want to round that. So now that I see it, I am going to round it. I'm going to show you the example I made on the last practice knife that I had with just some wood sitting around. Keep in mind, this is just a stainless steel that I had, some stainless steel plates, and a piece of pallet wood and some old 1/4-inch tubing that I had for air pipes. So I made this just to see if this was possible for me to do. And when I cut this, I just cut it straight. I didn't sand it nice. The end grain is all hard. And it came out surprisingly really, really good. It's a little crooked up here, you can see. This side's higher than this side, so that's something to keep in mind. However, I was going to do a similar design to this one where I came in, but I thought, well, I'll just do a straight side and we'll see if this is a possibility and how well it came out. And it's really good. I loved it. One thing I noticed with this right off the bat was the handling. Even though as I sanded it and I thought it was nice and round, when I hold it, it's actually really comfortable. However, I would have liked to make everything a little more round to include the edge of this, right? So the leading edge isn't something that's on my fingers. However, it is something that's going to be worn out through usage. And so as things hit it, if they have an ability to deflect out, meaning they're at a 45 degrees angle, right? i.e., as things hit this, they can deflect out. Now, as they hit a sharp edge, they won't deflect out and they run the risk of chipping that edge. So what I'm going to do is just round that edge here and back here when I hand sand it. So I'm going to round this edge prior to mounting it to the blade on both sides so that this front becomes more of a beveled piece, but still has this flat surface here and here. So it's pretty cool. I think that came out really good. I still got to touch up the things. You can see where I burned the wood just so slightly. This is really nice. I'm surprised this is coming along so fast. Hey, go outside and touch some grass today.